I would now like to turn the floor over to your presenter, your first presenter for today. That is Mike Priesement. He's a senior manager in education product marketing. Mike, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you so much, Phil. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Hope you're having a great day, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, depending where you're joining us from. We have a really exciting topic today with a really exciting demo. So I'm going to go through a few slides here, kind of build up the story, and then pass things over to my colleague, Serge, who's going to take us through a multi-part demo, kind of really demonstrating what digital transformation can look like in education. But before getting into the meat of the actual session itself today, just kind of a quick preview of what are some previous topics we've covered, what's coming up in the future. So we've done quite a few different topics around Adobe solutions, digital transformation, e-signatures, a lot of the powerful integrations we have with things like Microsoft, our partnership, Workday, HR-related use cases. So a lot of great on-demand topics that you can view through our website, kind of view the full recording, skip over to just the demo portion if that's what you're interested in, take a look at the questions we have. Today, November 30th, obviously we're talking about digital transformation. And then due to the holidays in December, we moved up the webinar session for that. So definitely join us for our December 15th session where we're going to be talking about automating workflows with Acrobat and Acrobat Sign. Another kind of really good follow-up to today's digital transformation session. And then kicking off the new year in January, really talking about how can you modernize your document management for maximum efficiency in 2023. So kind of really all about how to make your organizations more efficient when it comes to converting paper to paperless, to PDFs and e-signatures and all of those kind of things, how that plays together with each other. So a lot of great content coming up and available on demand. And then before we get into the actual topic today, always do a quick poll just to kind of see the demographics of who's joining us. So kind of what's your role? What did you sign up for? So I'll pause here for a minute, kind of let everybody in the room kind of participate. So you can let us know where you're coming from, what's your responsibility. And immediately I see these results coming in and a pretty good mixture of folks from different departments within the organization, definitely skewing towards the IT side, but a lot of finance and HR related folks as well. So that's definitely interesting to see because this is something just as relevant for you and your roles. But again, definitely close to 50% in IT, which that's good news for today's topic because I think you are the boots on the ground that really do a lot of the work in terms of making digital transformation a reality for your institutions and making all these improvements and efficiencies come to life. Okay, I don't see a ton more responses coming in, so let's move on. So thank you for that. So today's session, like I mentioned, is powering digital transformation by going paperless. So digital transformation, it's a big word, a big buzzword for, years and years in the industry. What does it mean to us, and what do we think is really the easiest way for educational institutions to really kick off digital transformation? And we see that as really going paperless. That's really the foundation to an institution's success in digital transformation, because if you're still dealing with pieces of paper, it's going to make going digital and really transforming the organization really hard. When you think of digital transformation, there are a few different priorities you can think of. It's kind of around classroom technology, so especially supporting online and remote learning. Everyone had to do a really quick sprint a couple of years ago on how can we support remote learning for institutions that didn't have anything to do with outside of the actual physical classroom. Data systems, these are always under scrutiny, and how can I make things a little bit more efficient? So what am I doing around my data and analytics systems, SIS implementations, LMS implementations, and all the improvements? So a ton of digital transformation around those. But like I mentioned, really the top priority for most organizations, and we did a survey late last year, and most of the responses said that they're really focused on the basics of just digitizing all of their different paper forms and documents to digital, automating those, so making manual processes and workflows more automated, and then moving from a wet signature, kind of a physical signature on a piece of paper, to an electronic signature. So we see that as really the key starting point for a lot of educational institutions when they kicked off their digital transformation journeys. So why is going paperless so important? So a lot of these came from the survey that we did late last year, but a lot of it also is just based on talking to our customers, talking to experts in the field, those that are kind of dealing with day in and day out. And why is paperless so important? And you're probably wondering, why am I talking about why it's important? Obviously, you signed up for today's session to learn more about this. So you probably already understand that this is important and you want to learn about the product itself. But when you're selling the idea of, hey, we need to invest in some digital technologies to help us go paperless, there's really three key reasons that you would probably want to keep that talk track around when you're trying to convince others that why this is important, why should they support you in kind of moving towards an e-signature based workflow. And it's really around these three key pillars of having to deal with new operating models, up-leveled experiences, and increasing document volumes. So with operating models, this is really all about that big change that the pandemic kicked off. It definitely was kind of the catalyst for this, but now we're living in this world now where we have hybrid workforces. We have to provide remote access. We have to always focus on contactless experiences. And it's really difficult to do all those with actual physical paper. So going paperless is a huge supporter of that. In fact, in part of the survey that we did, 62% of respondents said that they expect some of their staff to work remotely permanently from once that shift started. The middle one here, up-leveled experience expectations. So this has just kind of been a trend in IT for years and years now, where kind of the level of IT service in terms of the kind of technology experience that you get outside of the consumer world has always been a little bit behind. So obviously the digital experiences you get in your consumer life have really just taken off, and it's so seamless, everything you do. And whether it's in the workplace or in a government type of environment, they've been really behind. But now people are expecting really that same sort of consumer experience anywhere they are. And that is just as important in the education space. So whether it's students, parents or guardians, or employees like faculty, teachers, staff, admins, why should their digital experience at their educational institution, at their place of work, or where you're studying, why should it be so behind? And having a physical piece of paper where you have to sign stuff and fill it out and check boxes and all that really old-fashioned things is really behind the times. So you really need to provide that really great modern consumer-like experience. And then finally, we're just dealing with more and more data on a daily basis. The more data, the more forms, the more things to track, the more things to manage, the more things to keep secure, as you can probably imagine. When we did this survey last year, 69% of respondents said there's a form for literally every single thing that they're tracking within the institution. And you can imagine how difficult this is, or you're probably dealing with how difficult it is when you have stacks of paper forms and folders, and the huge advantage to moving that to a digital lifestyle. And then, of course, the pandemic kicked off all these huge changes and the importance for this, but this trend is only going to continue. 77% of people that we surveyed said that it's been more important over the past 12 months when we did the survey last year. And then they say over the next 5 years, 85% said this is going to be even more important. And again, why is this going to be more important? Some of the top answers were they want to have easier access to information. They want to focus on the operational efficiencies and time savings, and they want greater data accuracy, because when you're having manual data entry from paper-based forms, there's just so much room for error and so much huge improvement you can have by going paperless. So when we think of going paperless, and a lot of what you see on this slide here is what our demo is going to be based off of, going paperless is really this full life cycle of thinking of a piece of paper, or thinking of a form or a document. It starts out as, how do I convert this to a digital document? So this can either be something I'm creating net new from my computer, and obviously it's instantly saved as a digital form, so that's perfect. But if you're going on this journey to go paperless, you probably have a ton of legacy forms and documents that are already just printed. So you need to think of, how can I convert these paper forms to digital? And there's a lot of different ways to do that. Next step is creating the actual form itself. So if you're creating this from the beginning, then it's really easy. You can use tools like Adobe Acrobat Sign to make fillable forms. But again, if it's going paperless from an actual piece of paper, there's also really easy ways to make for example, a scanned piece of paper that converts it into a PDF, make that into an interactive form that you can actually have fillable forms. And then how do you get this around to other people? You want to make sure you're able to share it and comment and annotate and collaborate with others. Finally, moving along, a lot of times the document or the form needs to be signed by either one or many people, and they need to be able to do this anywhere, anytime. And then after the fact, track and audit and archive it and be able to easily find it. So going paperless is obviously more than just converting a piece of paper to a PDF or converting a wet signature to an e-signature. It's this full paper life cycle. So there's a lot of ways you can add value to what's going on. And most of these do involve a PDF. So obviously, who better to talk about making PDFs more efficient for your organization than the inventor of the PDFs, Adobe. And we'll get to that in a little bit here. So you can imagine all of the huge changes you can get when you're moving from a paper-based workflow to a paperless workflow. There's kind of just looking on the chart here, starting from poor experiences. So I talked about that kind of need for having consumer-like digital experiences. And we've all filled out paper forms, whether it's at school, at the doctor's office, at a government place, or anywhere. It's no fun to sit there and fill out a form, check the boxes, put your information, and sometimes you have to copy that information from page to page. It's just a bad experience overall. There's a lot of times a lot of mistakes that can be made on the form. So that means there's security and compliance risks. It's complex and error prone. And kind of tying back to that poor experience is because it's just manual and time consuming, both the filling out of the form and then also of entering it into whatever type of data system that you're using. The bad news is 80% of education-based workflows that involve a form, and remember, nearly everything has a form, so 80% of those forms still involve actual paper. So there's such a huge world of opportunity to move these from paper to paperless. And the benefits, obviously the polar opposite of the negatives of using paper, is because it's digital, it's automated and integrated, which means it's a lot faster. It's no longer manual. It's easier to track and manage because there's a lot less errors in filling it out, because you can really lock down fields in a form to make sure that people are filling out the right information. It's much more secure and compliant. And then, of course, tying back to that great consumer-like experience, it's quick, easy, accessible. You can fill out this form from any device, anywhere, without having to sign up for any sort of account. So just a huge, huge benefit. And then again, we've done a lot of research on this as well in terms of what kind of actual improvements can I measure for my institution? Because again, a lot of times, I know we have a lot of people from IT, you're interested in doing this and maybe you need to justify the budget for investing in these kind of tools. It's really easy to measure the improvement that you can get from this. So we can easily measure the increase in transaction speeds. When we say transaction, that's the time it takes to get a form filled out, finalized, and input it back into the system. So we partnered a couple times early this year as well with Forrester Consulting to kind of really measure the measurable impact on going paperless. So there's an increase in transaction speed, improvement in compliance of 25%, just because you're reducing so many errors. In fact, the amount of errors that are reduced, we've seen around 85%. And then the actual money and time savings. So think of the person that's dealing with this stack of papers to do some manual data entry. So by every e-signature, you're saving an hour and a half of labor hours per document. So I mean, if a person's spending an hour and a half on a document instead, that's almost instantaneous. And then when you think of the cost savings of printing it, the paper, the ink, printer maintenance, shipping it, you're saving $6 per document out. in addition to so the cost of investing in a solution like this, you're still saving $6 per document on average. So a ton of really good justification for going down this path. So as I mentioned, the majority of paper-based workflows, paperless forms, things, they're always going to be PDFs for the most part. And that's why Adobe, we feel we're really in a great space to really help partner and make this successful for you because number one, I mean, we're the creator of the PDF. So we really have the greatest way to work with PDFs in terms of creating forms out of them, getting them, making them accessible, embedding them into document services. I mean, just looking at the numbers here, we see on average 250 billion PDFs opened just in Adobe tools, so Adobe Acrobat. And then 40% of documents received in Outlook are PDFs. So there's kind of a ton of synergy, and we understand how to work best with PDFs. We've put that know-how into our solutions like Acrobat Sign to make it really a really great experience. And because we know this is something that really is the most used file format when it comes to documents, and really the most used file format overall. So then when we think of what is it that Adobe actually is offering to really help make this a much better place for you, we have a handful of solutions. We have solutions to help you scan documents into a PDF format. So Adobe Scan, we have Adobe Acrobat that's more than just a PDF editor. It helps create the forms themselves. There's a lot of collaboration capabilities in Acrobat. We have Acrobat Sign with the e-signature capabilities, partnering with Microsoft. We have APIs. And the way that we organize out our tools is really according to almost like a maturity model of how do you go paperless? How do you go digital? And we see it as three phases of, if you haven't even done anything in terms of going paperless, then your first step is really just what we call going digital, converting paper to digital. That's where you're going to be scanning pieces of paper, creating a PDF out of them, or using a tool like Acrobat to just create a PDF from scratch. So whether it's a Word document, you're converting into a PDF and making a form out of it. So start by going digital. Next step is staying digital, which is taking those paperless based documents, so those PDFs, and then digitizing the workflows. So adding e-signatures, automating things, and working with, for example, Microsoft we include Microsoft here. We have a ton of integrations with all kinds of applications, but we do have a strategic partnership with Microsoft, which just makes it a much deeper set of integrations if you're a Microsoft shop. And then once you've gotten past that phase of digitizing your workflows, it's really about that utmost kind of being digital type of organization where now we're automating everything, where we have true paperless digital transformation. So for that, you might be looking at our APIs and PDF services to really automate a lot of the things that you've been doing in these first two phases. Now, of course, you can go any approach you like. This is what we see as really a smooth transition to, if you're just getting started, to adding more capabilities, and then really seeing yourself as a fully digitally transformed institution in terms of paperless documents. So with that, hopefully that kicked off a lot of the reasons. Before we go into the demo, just kind of show where is this really relevant for your institution, whether you're a K through 12 school or district, a higher education institution. There are use cases for going paperless really across the organization. So whether it's more in the back office for operations management, so think of all of the vendor agreements, purchase orders, lease agreements you might have, staff management. HR is one of the top use cases that we see our customers going through first. Things like employee onboarding documents, leave of absence, PTO, a ton around HR, but then also on the student facing front. So again, whether it's K through 12 or higher ed, there's a ton of forms that everybody needs to deal with. So whether you're a K through 12 school or district and you have release and permission slips that a parent or guardian needs to fill out, IEP forms that can be super complicated, and paperless just makes it much easier. Now with obviously a lot of remote learning, so device distribution on the higher ed side, students having to fill out a form and sign it, whether it's for a transcript or a financial aid form, housing forms, donations, grants. I mean, it's a really long list. But the moral of the story is investing in tools to help with going paperless, it's something that's going to be relevant across the entire organization. So you might have a single use case in mind right now that, hey, I have a stack of paper documents that I would love to get rid of and make these all digital. You can take that and expand it across the entire organization to really become this true paperless, the paperless school, the paperless college or university. So hopefully I set up the landscape here for why is this important, what are the potential, and with that I'm going to hand it off to my colleague Serge, who's going to take us through a kind of a multi-part demo to see how a lot of those pieces fit in and what does it actually look like with our various solutions. While we're doing this, feel free to drop in any questions in the Q&A pod, and when we're done with the demo, we're going to answer a lot of these live or answer you kind of direct in the Q&A pod itself. So with that, Serge, I will hand it off to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you all for joining our webinar today. So hopefully what you should see on my screen now is what you're going to see. First, I'm going to take a permission slip, print it out. I'm going to scan that using Adobe Scan. Then we're going to take that document, we're going to edit it in Adobe Acrobat. And once I'm done with the edit, we're then going to send it for signature. And I'm going to use a feature called Send in Bulk, so I can send it to multiple individuals. So here is my tablet, and this is the paper that we're actually going to use. This is the permission slip that I want to scan and digitize. As Mike has mentioned, I'm sure there's a lot of you that have documents that are already printed out. And the important thing when you're going digital is to get these documents into a digitized format. And so so Adobe Scan is really good to help in this effort. There are other ways of making your documents digital, but in today's demo, we're gonna use Adobe Scan. And so here I've launched Adobe Scan, and you can see automatically it's identifying the actual document and it's taking a picture of it. And so as I'm looking at this, to me, it looks good. I'm ready to continue with digitizing this document. So on the bottom right, I'm gonna click on continue, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go to the actual document that I've just scanned. Now I have a lot of different features available to me right below. So you can see where I can add some additional pages, I can crop, I can rotate, I can adjust the page size and so forth. It looks fine to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and just rename this to my new permission slip. And once I am done with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that into the cloud. There we go. If I could spell. There we go. I'll go ahead and click rename, and I'll click save to PDF. And now what this is doing is this is setting this up to our Acrobat cloud. And so now that I've scanned this document, I can go ahead into Acrobat. So here I'm on my desktop version of Adobe Acrobat, and I can come over to my home screen, and if I click on, so I have a couple different files. This is the one that I've just scanned right here, called my new permission slip. You can see I've just uploaded this, and I can do a lot of different things. So I went from scanning a document to now I'm going to add some edits to this document. And so I have different options available to me. I can click on Edit PDF, and what this is going to do is going to download it from the cloud, and here I have it right on my desktop, ready to start adding edits to it. So if I want to add some information to these text fields, I can come up here where it says Add Text, and I can just draw out, my text field where I want to add some additional information. So since this is a permission slip, I'll go ahead and put in the date. So we'll say this is for December 1st, 2022. And then the location, we're going to a theme park. So I'll go ahead and put down my theme park. You come down for a second, and we'll go ahead and put theme park. And then as far as, when I'm going to pick up students, we'll say at 8 a.m. And then as far as the return time, we will go ahead and say 2 p.m. So it's really easy to edit a document once you have it in Acrobat. If I scroll down, I can see other information that I want to edit. I can add other fields at my liking. But for right now, I'm good with the edits that I've made. I'm ready to take this agreement or this permission slip, and I want to go ahead and send it for some signatures. So I'll go ahead and I will save this. And this is going to, again, save to the cloud. So regardless of where I'm at, I can be mobile and I can pick up the same document that I was just working on. And I'm going to go over to my tools. Close this. And then these are some different tools I have available to me. So under the forms and signatures, I can request for any signature. That's if I want to send it to just one individual. If I want to prepare the form and add additional text fields that I want the recipients to edit, I can do that. But what I want to do is I just want to send this in bulk. So by clicking on this feature, I'll be taken to the web version of Acrobat. And so I was just on the desktop version. We actually can do this via the web version as well. And I'll show you a couple different features after I send this in bulk. So now I'm prepared to add my recipients. As you can see here, I can add my file and I can edit the agreement details. So here, if I want to, I can just start typing up some different email addresses that I want to send this to. But luckily, I have a list of some of the parents that I want to send this. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these emails from my Excel spreadsheet. I'll come back to Acrobat and I will just paste them in there. And then just by hitting the return key on my keyboard, those email addresses are ready to go. If I want to add myself, or if I want to add someone to be copied on this agreement, I have that ability to do that as well. If I need to password protect this agreement, that's an option that's available to me. And the action that they will perform is they will be signers. So each of these individuals will be signing this permission slip. Now it's time to actually add the file. So I was just working on this file recently. I'll go ahead and click on Select Files. And then here I have a list of my permission of the files that I have in the cloud. So this is the one we were just working on. I'll go ahead and select that. But I can also have the option to select documents from my computer or another cloud repository. So we'll just use the one that we were just editing. And then we'll come down, and here's the name of the agreement. It actually inherits the name of the file that I'm using, but I can always update this. So we'll just go ahead and say demo, just to show you that you can definitely update this. And here I can update the actual message that I have in this particular agreement. I have a few settings available to me. If I need to add a reminder, I can go ahead and select add a reminder, and this will remind the individuals based on my preference. So let's say I want to remind them every day or maybe every other day. That's an option that's available to me. And then down below, if I want to actually password protect the document itself, I can do that. I'll just go ahead and click save. I'll have my reminder, and now I'm ready to prepare the actual document. So what you're going to see here is Acrobat is going to take the document that we were just working on, and there we have the information. And if you've noticed, right on the right-hand side, you'll see this little blue box where it says form fields were detected in this document. So this is another opportunity for you to automate things. And I'll show you a couple different places where you can add some automation just to make your workflow much easier. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And what you'll notice is Sensei, Adobe Sensei is our solution that basically adds these text boxes to this actual agreement. What it's doing is it's continuously scanning this document, trying to identify where there should be a text field, a signature field, and so forth. I won't do here it gave me 3 text boxes because it saw 3 underlines. I just need 1, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the 2, and I'm going to go ahead and expand this text box. And if I actually double click in this text box, I have other options available to me. So for example, one thing that I consider a best practice when you are digitizing your workflows or you're digitizing documents, especially when it comes to templates, is you want to give your text field a meaningful name. So right here where it says custom field 1, by default, when you add a field or when Sensei adds a field to your document, it'll use custom field and then whatever numeric value is available to label that field. I would recommend adding something more meaningful. So here I'm going to use medical info as this text field. And the reason why I'm referring to this is down the line, when you start using other applications like, for example, Microsoft Power Automate to take form field data and populate, either a database or a list, you can merge map fields to lists or to databases. And that's where adding meaningful names to your fields are very important. I want to make this multi-line because I want the parents to be able to add as much information in this text box. And then I have some other options where I can change the font size or even the font color. So that's looking okay. I have my signature field and I'm fine with this name. It's required. I have my date field. So when the parent signs this document, the current date will appear. Then I have another text field, but I want to do something different here. When the parent signs the document, I want their name to automatically populate here. And so instead of using a text input field, I'll change this to a name field. And so what that's going to do is that's going to give me the name of the parent. And we'll just call this full name. Once we're done with that, there's one more field left that I need to add, and that is our emergency contact. So this, I'll keep it as a text input field. We'll call this phone. And if I want to have clean data, I can add some validation. So for example, down here where I see phone, this will allow me to ensure that only a valid phone number in terms of the format gets entered into this text box. So it looks good. I like what I see here. I'm ready to actually send. So I'll go ahead and click on next. And now I'll get to a final screen that basically tells me where this agreement is, who it's from, who it's going to. So here I have the two recipients, what the file is, the email subject, the message, and then some different settings that I've applied here. So I'll go ahead and click on send. And that's all there is to it. So I've actually sent out this agreement to both parents, and now it's just a matter of them signing the actual agreement. Before I do that, before we go to the agreement section, I'm going to click on Manage Agreements. And I want to show you where you can actually come in and look at the status of your agreement. So for example, if I go over to eSign and I click on Send in Bulk or any of the options here, I can click on Manage. And this is where I will see my bulk sends. So this is the one that we just sent out. If I want to see the status, I can see that they're all still out for signature. I have a few that were already signed. This is what it would look like. So here are some that are actually sent and have been signed. And these are the ones that I'm actually waiting for actual signature. So let's see what that looks like from a desktop perspective. So here I am in Outlook, and here I've just received an email, basically the permission slip that I need to review and sign. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link, and I'm going to open this up in a private browser just to mimic that I'm a different user. So this is the URL. This is the link that the person will be taken to when they click on that button. And then I can click on continue. And then here's the information that that's on the agreement, the date, the location, the pickup and return time. Here I can add information. I can just say not applicable for my child, and then I'm ready to sign. And so here I can type in my name as the parent. We'll put in Jenny Live, and then we'll click apply. I can draw my signature if I wanted to. If I have a picture of a wet signature that I would like to upload, I can do that. And then of course there's this mobile function where I can enter in my mobile number, and what will happen is I'll get a text that'll allow me to sign on my mobile device, and the signature will be presented right on the agreement. I'm just going to use the typing feature, and what you'll notice is here's my signature, here's the full name, here's the date, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in a number, and I'm going to try and add some other information, and you'll notice that it gets some validation saying we need to add a valid phone number. So I'll go ahead and add a number that you can all call me at. I don't pick up, I'm sorry, but here we have it. I'll click to sign. Now that's all done, I will go ahead and close this out. And then we can come back and look at, if I were to refresh the screen, we can see that one agreement has been signed and one is still out for signature. So that's how you would actually take a scanned document, bring it into Adobe Acrobat, make your edits, and then send it for signature. But I want to show you one other thing really fast that adds on to automation. And this is part of the send in bulk features that I think is really important for you. So I'm going to come back over to Acrobat and I'm going to click on send in bulk, or I could have done it here. Either way, if I come to home, if I click on send in bulk, right here, if you have a lot of email addresses and you want to personalize some of this information for each of the senders, we give you that option using some merge fields. And so basically what this is we have a CSV template that allows you to enter in your recipient's name, their email address, and some personalized information that you want to send to them, as well as things that you would like to automatically populate in the document. That's why I was talking about naming your fields appropriately. So what this looks like is this. This is the actual CSV file. It has a column for the email, has their full name, and then right here where it has an agreement message, this will be sent to these individuals and they will have this personal information sent to them, or a personalized message sent to them. And then I have information about the field trip, the location, the pickup and return time. This will automatically get populated into the document. So if I were to say December 2nd instead of December 1st, then we can actually populate this information. But we'll go ahead and keep it at December 1st for now. And then I will come back to Acrobat Sign and I'm going to upload this CSV. And so here I have the CSV. I'll go ahead and upload that. And then as I mentioned, you can use this, you can use documents from the cloud or from your desktop. I happen to actually save this document to my desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this. And then I'm going to keep this box where it says preview position signatures or add form fields. I'm going to leave that checked so you can actually see. And let me give my agreement a name. My new permission slip. And let me go ahead and hit next. And so now what's going to happen is you're going to see the same process. It's going to take the agreement. And now here's where I want to show you something different. So again, we have Adobe Sensei that's continuously scanning the document, right? Scanning the document to say, I think we know where these form fields need to be placed. But earlier, what I did was I already had this template built and I saved it as a template. If you can see at the bottom right corner where it says save as template, and where that's going to appear is under the field templates. And so if I select field templates and select permission slip, I'll click apply and automatically I have these fields populate for me. So as you're thinking about the documents that you have, one of the things that should always be top of mind is this document reusable? If it is, save it as a reusable template. That's going to be critical with digitizing your workflows. So everything's set up here, looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and click on send. And then what we'll do next is we'll go to my inbox and I'll show you how those different messages appear for the different recipients that get the actual agreement. And again, everything is done here right on the web. I can manage those agreements in terms of what's in progress, which ones they're waiting for, which ones are waiting for me to sign, and so forth. So here we go. Here's our first agreement. And notice in the message, here I have Craig following our discussion and so forth. That's a specific message I sent for Craig. And then for the next agreement, we'll go ahead and open up Jenny's. So here I have Jenny's and I have specific information for her. And so this is where you can start really personalizing things. Then last but not least, what I want to show you is how that information automatically populates. So we'll go ahead and open this up again in a different browser. And then there it is. There's the theme, there's the date, theme park, and so forth. And that's all there is to it. So in terms of what you saw today, we took a document that was in paper form, we scanned it using Adobe Scan, then we made some edits using Adobe Acrobat, and then we sent in bulk. And you can send in bulk in various ways. You can use the CSV file to speed up or expedite the process, or you can just send it right out the gate. So I hope this demo was helpful. Now I'll turn the time back over to Mike to wrap us up. Mike, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Serge. That was really great. So before we jump into questions, just kind of some additional resources that we have for everybody. So first, we have quite a few assets around kind of digital transformation, the opportunity, and kind of different options you can do. A lot of customer testimonials and success stories of a lot of education customers that have moved to Acrobat and Acrobat Signed to do similar use cases. So definitely check those out. As I mentioned, in about 2 weeks or so, we have another great session around kind of automating document workflows. So definitely sign up for that one. And then if you want more specific information, reach out to your Adobe or reseller representative. We can set up one-on-one time to kind of do a much more customized demo for your needs. So definitely reach out for that. But now we'll use the next 15 minutes we have left here for Q&A. So I'm actually turning it over to Corey, my colleague. She'll kind of help go through a lot of these great questions that came in, and then Serge and I will do our best to answer them. So Corey, let me hand things off to you, and then we'll get into these questions.
Awesome. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mike. As Mike mentioned, my name is Corey Wood. I am one of the K-12 account managers here working with districts across the US and Canada. And I'm happy to kick off some of these questions. Hopefully we get to all of them. Please continue to put them in the Q&A pod as we go through. We'll try to get to as many as we can here. I'm going to try to consolidate a few down into sort of buckets to see if we can touch on these for Mike and Serge. To answer the questions, maybe little discussion points. But based on the demonstration here that Serge put together, there was a lot of questions around some of the solutions included. So we'll start with Scan, Adobe Scan. And so there were some questions around what Adobe Scan is sort of under the layer, if it's OCR technology, in correlation to that, there was questions around if you have to use it as part of this process or as part of Sign, if you will. So love to answer that. I will start off by answering the question myself. It is a free app. So underneath the the Apple or the Android App Store, you can get access to Adobe Scan. But for Mike and Serge, do you want to dive a little bit into the Scan app itself? I believe it's based on OCR technology, but it's part of Sensei is wrapped into it as well.
I can take that. So yeah, that it is OCR'd, but we also have APIs available to OCR documents in bulk. So Scan does OCR the text. It actually, when you scan it, you'll see that it's starting to recognize the text, and it'll send it over with all the OCR capabilities once you're editing in Acrobat.
Fantastic. And so just to kind of tie into that as well, you don't have to use Adobe Scan. There was a question about having to use it. It's a great tool, part of the overall document cloud process. And to what Serge was demoing here, it kind of shows you the start to finish digitalization process. But one of the questions specifically was, do you have to use it? You don't, but it happens to be a great solution. And if you happen to have Acrobat as well, you have the ability to move it into the Acrobat solution to edit and so forth. There was another question around integration. So there was a question early on, another question about, is Microsoft required for this process or is it an option? So I can hand it over to Mike if you want to answer.
Yeah, so Microsoft is definitely not required. We just kind of called it out because we have such a deep set of integrations with Microsoft's tools. So whether it's Outlook, Word, SharePoint, and then especially Power Automate to kind of really build either simple or very complex kind of automated workflows. You can kind of use a lot of these tools together. But Microsoft is just one example. We have a ton of out-of-box integrations, and in addition to that, very flexible APIs, so you can integrate Acrobat, Sign, e-signature capabilities really with any type of application that supports API calls. So I saw another question coming in here that they're going to be implementing an Oracle ERP system. So there are out-of-box integrations for quite a few Oracle solutions, and if it doesn't work with exactly what you're doing with Oracle, then of course the APIs can work as well to kind of incorporate a lot of this stuff into it. So hopefully that answered the question. So no, Microsoft not required, but obviously a lot of a lot of great synergy between our tools and Microsoft tools.
Fantastic. I'm going to bounce down to one of the more recent questions here, but there's some other ones coming in as well. There's a question around collecting the fill and sign document forms, but needing to send them in bulk with the signature confirmation page to a different department. So is there a way to do that within the management piece of Sign?
So we're wanting to separate the audit trail? Is that what we're asking?
I believe it's once my take is on it is once the form has been filled and signed and completed, can they take, like in the case of like a bulk signature process, can they take those bulk signature completed documents and then send them off to a different department within the organization?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I mean, there's a couple different ways of doing this. One, you could just add, on CC who needs to see this, the agreements, and you can set in Sign, at what point do they receive the completed agreements. So, for example, when all is said and done, you can say after all agreements are complete, or then send the complete agreement to a different department, whatever that email is. If you want more control over that, this is where you want to either leverage our APIs or even our low-code, no-code solutions like Power Automate to determine where those agreements should be sent after a specific action has happened. So in this case, once an agreement is completed, where do we then route the agreements? So a couple of different ways of doing that.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question for you. I think you touched on this a little bit, Serge, in the demo process itself, but there was a question around pulling the data from the bulk forms into a spreadsheet. So yeah. I guess how is that process completed?
A lot of different ways. The easy solution, in my opinion, is our integration with SharePoint. And this is where if it's a web form, any agreement that is, and I didn't show web forms today, but if it's a web form, it's essentially an agreement that will take all the form field data and it'll pass it into a spreadsheet. If it's not a web form, then this is where you can leverage something like Power Automate to send out the agreement. And then once the agreement is complete, you can have Power Automate extract all the data from the agreement and post it into a spreadsheet or a SharePoint list. And we can definitely show you what that looks like offline if you want to see a demo of that.
Perfect. Perfect. And shifting gears a little bit here, but there was a question coming in, I think, around security, if you will, or confirmation. But there was a question around being able to limit the signature options within the document. And tied into that is, how do we prevent a kid from forging a signature in that case?
A lot of different security options, so if that's the case, whoever owns the email can then have access to the actual agreement. If you want to password protect the agreement, you can do that. And there's other solutions that allow you to protect the agreement, like knowledge-based authentication and so forth. So if that's an issue, a strong issue, then we have different protocols in place to mitigate that.
Fantastic. And here's a question. I'm not sure if I understand the question completely the way it's being asked. but it comes down to, I talk about this a lot with different customers, the ability to send multiple documents to the same, in this case, the question is around the same group of people, but then being able to save those documents separately and not combined into one. So I guess
Yeah, I can.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I can take that one, and then Serge, if you want to jump on. Yeah, we get that. I've seen that question come up a few times. So separating the two concepts. So there's bulk send, where you can send out a document out to multiple people, and each one gets their own individual copy of it for them to sign. But then also, when you're adding documents to Acrobat Sign, you can upload multiple PDFs or Word documents or whatever file format you're working with, upload multiple files, add all of the different form fields. But then what happens is those multiple files will get combined into just a single PDF at the end with all the signatures. So out of the box, there's no way to separate it. But then again, working with kind of a low code, no code solution like Power Automate can let you replicate something similar to what you'd be looking for, where you can have a bulk send experience with multiple recipients and multiple documents and keep those separate. So it would be more of kind of automating a bulk send a couple times with it. But Serge, maybe you might have a different idea around that.
No, I think you're spot on.
Perfect. And then there's a question that just came in around the functionality being part of Adobe Acrobat Pro 2020, or being in addition to that. And so I think some of that comes down to, Mike, I can let you answer this as well. Some of it comes down to the specific use case and the requirements of the use case. As far as this completed process that Serge showed today, I'm assuming that that's specifically the question the customer is asking, is this format that Serge demoed today, is that specifically included with Acrobat Pro 2020?
So Acrobat Pro 2020, so that's our non-cloud enabled version of Acrobat. So any sort of web-based feature like e-signatures. So what can get a little bit confusing is we have fill-in sign, which is a self-signing feature. So if you open up a PDF in Acrobat and you want to just sign it yourself and then save that locally as a signed PDF to your computer, you can do that in any version of Acrobat, whether it's Acrobat Reader, which is a free tool, or Acrobat Pro. So Acrobat Pro 2020 is the non-subscription based version of Acrobat, which does not support e-signatures, like when you're sending a document to someone else for a signature. So it wouldn't be included with that. So your option is either purchasing Acrobat Pro. The namings get a little bit confusing. I think we just call it Acrobat Pro, which is kind of our cloud-based Acrobat, which lets you use those e-signatures. But then a lot of the more advanced e-signature features like bulk send that Serge demonstrated, that's a separate product called Acrobat Sign, which includes a lot of these more enterprise-grade e-signature capabilities. So it can be using Acrobat Pro itself or a combination of Acrobat and Acrobat Sign. But I think best thing to do is set up a time with us, or if you're working with a reseller, and we can go through all the different options to kind of explain exactly what you already have access to and what you can do in addition to what you might already have access to.
Fantastic. And I know we're coming up here at the top of the hour, so just a couple minutes left. There have been a few different questions to that point, Mike, around what's included, what's not, and what the overall pricing structure is, or given an idea of what pricing can be. And I think it comes back to, and I'll let these Mike and so forth add some flavor to this, but it really comes down to understanding the requirements for the usage needs for the district or the institution. Because there are a couple of different ways of approaching it, whether it's in the Acrobat Pro subscription solution or looking at Adobe Sign for Enterprise with some of the functionality here that Serge talked about with bulk signatures. He referenced web forms and so forth earlier as well, which we did not show. But pricing can vary depending on the options that you need for your workflows within your organization. So happy to schedule some time. I will answer a few folks here on this. I'll put my email address. Happy to connect you with your Adobe account team to set up a call if you need to kind of walk through what your use case is, and we kind of dive down into the pricing options there. So I don't know, Mike or anybody, if they want to add some flavor to that, but pricing can vary depending on the specific use case that you might be looking at.
Yeah, no, that's definitely spot on. I mean, the only thing I would add to that is so pricing absolutely can vary, and we have a lot of flexible ways that we can kind of build out a pricing structure for organizations. So whether it's on a per transaction basis, so how many documents do you need signed per year, or if it's looking at Acrobat Pro itself, how many seats or how many subscriptions do you need to give to users for that? So yeah, I mean, bottom line, definitely talk to us and we'll figure out the best option that works for you. And we absolutely have education-friendly pricing for that as well.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've got just a couple minutes later. I will add to what Mike just said there real briefly as well. If you have an Adobe agreement out there already, there's a couple of different buying programs that Adobe has in general around education and so forth. But if you do have an agreement out there already, the sign functionality that we've seen here today, can be added to existing agreements depending on the options that Mike touched on for those pricing. So from a technology management standpoint, same pane of glass type scenario. So it's within that structure and make it a little bit easier for you. So now we are almost at the top of the hour. I know there's some other questions here. I'm trying to answer those as well, but keep them coming. Certainly appreciate everybody joining us today and look forward to connecting with you later. I'll hand it back over to the team here.